let's dive right in. I'd like to welcome you again to today's webinar, the role of artificial intelligence in audit and certification processes, which comes to us from Jochen Klebot, Intact Systems Head of Analytics and AI. I'm Mike Richmond of Exemplar Global, your host and moderator for today's event. Before I introduce you, Jochen, a quick bit of housekeeping. If you're watching this session live, like many of you are right now, please feel free to ask questions at any time, and I'll pose them directly to our speaker. You can do so via the Q&A button right at the bottom of your screen there. I'll then pose your questions to the speaker as the session progresses. Probably do most of them at the end. It should be about a 40-minute presentation. Then we'll have 20 minutes or so at the end for those Q&A. If you're watching the session on demand, you can still ask questions of our speaker by writing to him directly at jochen.klebot. That's JOCHEN.klebot, KLEBOTH, at intact.systems.com. And Jochen is, I think, it is advancing his slide right now to introduce himself to you as I read the words. So, as mentioned, Jochen is the head of analytics and AI at Intact Systems, and Intact is the industry-leading cloud and on-premise ERP technology company for audit, assessment, certification, accreditation, and standards management. Jochen has a lengthy background not only in data analytics and artificial intelligence, but also in food safety and auditing. He applies this wealth of experience to fundamental questions and issues in the food safety certification industry, where he has been a noteworthy practical and scientific contributor for more than 15 years. And with that, take it away, Jochen.
Thank you so much, and a warm welcome also from my side. I'm delighted, really delighted today to speak about my passion, actually, which is artificial intelligence in the audit and certification industry. Today, I want to give you a little bit of background of AI and its role in the audit and certification industry, but also some mental models that when you talk about AI in the future to your colleagues, or you see new developments arising, that you can actually grasp it better and understand it better and make use of it. Next to that, I'm also want to give you some practical examples, as practical as possible, since it's still quite something new that we have here, and artificial intelligence is advancing so fast. So yeah, I come to that a little bit later. So it's really fascinating to talk about this today. Yeah, and pretty much three sections. Why do data and AI matter in audit certification? So this is a little bit the lean back and absorb part where I'm going to talk about why it is really important to talk about it and to deal with data and AI. And the second part is then the role that actually technology plays. So we go into a little bit more of the technology part, but not into depth, but just touching it on the surface, that you understand better what is actually happening out there. And the third one is going to be use cases. We're going to look at different use cases where we as Intact also have products, but also see AI fit for purpose in our field. Good. So that you also know from which angle and context I'm talking to you today, just a short introduction to Intact. We are now more than 20 years on the market, and we as Intact provides a complete software solution for auditing and compliance for certification, for standard setters, certification bodies, auditors, accreditation bodies, retailers, producers. So really an end-to-end solution for everything that you can imagine when it comes to auditing, from like the onboarding to invoicing to audit planning and so on. So that's where we are actually at and what we're dealing with. From food to sustainability to aerospace. So you also see that we cover quite some industries. And of course, our solution is industry flexible. Here you see some of our customers. You may know some of them like Kiva, SQF, EcoCert, Co-op, AIB, USDI, and Merrieux in the US, and so on and so on. So from small to big, we have quite a customer base, 7 Intact offices around the globe, mainly in Europe and the US. We have two products, just that you also know from where I'm talking about to you today. We have the Intake platform, which is, as I said before, powering audit certification and standards, where you're managing pretty much your audits. This is like the managing, that's the workhorse that is doing all the prep work, the audits itself, and also all the after work is done with our Intake platform. And my division is the Intake Analytics division. It covers pretty much data collection, visualization, but also, of course, artificial intelligence. And yeah, actually, artificial intelligence is nothing new for us. We're also researching, did quite some work in the research area there, also with my research group in Holland, where, yeah, we started, I would say, 7 years ago, where customers actually came to us and said, we gather now so many data points, so much data is in our databases. What can we actually do with it? And then, like these phrases of like, data is the new gold or the new oil. Actually, it's not very sustainable, but well, people were asking these questions and we were like, that's an interesting question. Well, let's see. And AI is actually nothing new. It started to develop in the 60s, 70s, and it just got more and more and more and more traction. And also that's what we're going to look at today a little bit, also the history of it. And yeah, I just can say it's really fascinating and also the current developments, of course, with ChatGPT. I'm pretty sure all of you know it and talk about it, and probably also have already used and tried it. This is something that we were working with, the last couple of years, I would say. Good. Okay. So why do data and I matter in audit and certification? And I'm actually pretty sure every one of you has some idea to it, why this would be interesting and why is it important. I just want to give you also my view in it. But also, please, in the Q&A section, type in what you think, why this is important, but also why you think it's probably, dangerous, because there's the great it is really great, and you can do a lot of things, especially with this ChatGPT these days. And the first time a broad mass of people do see it and can really play around with it, and of course, many questions also for security reasons, but also like job-related questions, and also they come up. Do we need an AI ethics? We are a strong believer at Intact. We also have research groups and project there where we say AI, that is great, and we have to have it, and we will for sure use it in the future. Even now, it's not future, actually, we have customers using it. So, but we have to be careful with it. We have to have rules. We have to make sure that these things don't get out of hand. So write in the comments in the Q&A section, and we come to that also back a little bit later. Okay, good. Now, it's probably a little bit philosophical, but let's think about the ultimate goal of an audit and certification. As a standard setter, you want to achieve something. You have a purpose. May that be guarantee or improve safety, sustainability, quality, whatsoever. Actually, that is what you're after. Of course, you have different stakeholders in this that comes together and have probably a little bit different views on this, but this is the actual pure goal behind all of this. Okay. And to actually achieve those goals, you have to make decisions, actually a lot of them, every single day. We as humans have to make a lot of decisions, but also in our daily work, which requirements to set as a standard setter, whom to audit when, how, what do I check at an audit? Yeah? Whom do I interview? How do I score? How do I write non-conformity descriptions? How to follow up on this? How to grade? How to analyze? And so on and so on. There are a lot of decisions that we have to make throughout the day. And yeah, for humans and machines actually, the basis for good decisions is data, information, and knowledge. I'm going to want to go too deep into data information knowledge, what's the difference, because they're a lot of the times mixed up. Just want to say that information knowledge, which more belongs to humans, at the end of the day is data, which kind of belongs more to machines. But yeah, the better your data, your information, your knowledge is, the better your decision is going to be. So at least that's a hypothesis. And so from my heuristics, what I've seen so far, that is very much true. If you want to know also more about this, we've published quite some papers on this as well. One of it worth mentioning, risk-based integrity audits in the food chain, a framework for complex systems. Check it out. If you don't get access to it, it's probably behind a paywall, then just drop me an email and I'm going to send it to you. Okay, purpose, guarantee and improve safety, sustainability, quality whatsoever. You have to make a lot of decisions, and the basis for all of this is data, information, and knowledge. I think we all agree on that. Okay, what implications does it have now? So actually, data is the fuel of information decision, as we said before. And so it's, when you think about it, about the certification process also, the commodity that we are dealing with is data. It's information. Passing it from A to B, grading it, or grading based on it, which actually would be a decision, and so on and so on. So the commodity actually is data. And so the next step is, based on data and also very important human input, AI automates cognitive tasks to a certain extent. And I think, at least for me, that was kind of an eye-opener, because everyone is talking about AI, but what does it actually do? And we're going to see it a little bit later as well. We're going to go into the specific task of what is a cognitive task. But what it actually does, it helps us, and now it's thin ice, but it helps us think. Yeah? It helps us think. It doesn't think for us. And this is also something probably for later in the Q&A section, but it helps us. It makes our thinking better because it's just good in doing the same thing over and over and over. And so it enables us humans to make better decisions. So that should be the goal for AI. And at least from what I've seen so far and what we have done, it for sure does. And ultimately, AI increases the efficiency and effectiveness to actually meet those goals. So you see the circle closes. And I would say with this reasoning, and this is my personal reasoning as well, I would say AI does play a very important part in audit and certification, and we definitely should have a closer look to it. If you want to know a little bit more about data as a commodity and all these cognitive task things, there's also a paper that we've published about data mining as a tool for anomaly detection. Same here. If it's behind a paywall, I think that one is actually not, then yeah, just drop me a line. I'm going to send it to you. Good. Great. So since we now know what AI is and why data and AI is important in the certification and audit industry, let's have a little closer look about the role it plays. And for that, I also want to, I told you in the beginning, I want to also give you mental models. One of the mental models is, I would say, the reasoning that I just had, but also another one that helped me also quite a lot is technology waves. So as you probably know, let me see if I can here start my laser pointer. Technology comes and goes in waves, pretty much like microbiological growth. Yeah, so you have an acceleration rate, a stable phase, and then a decrease. Okay. And so if you say, okay, how can these waves apply now to the history of auditing and certification? One thing I would say, it's paper-supported audits. The discussion of is paper a technology or not aside, I would say there definitely was a time where paper was just the thing to do. It was paper-based and it was good. And so we started our journey in the audit and certification industry back in the days, which was great. And you have to start somewhere and you use what you have. So paper was, I would argue, for the first technology. Then a second technology came, starting in the 80s, where computer systems or IT system, computer systems in that scenario became more and more popular, and people figured out what they can do with it. I would even argue that it was pretty much the same thing that we have now with AI. Also in the beginning, what could a computer do, and what would you use it for, except Pac-Man or Tetris or whatever whatsoever? So you had to come up with use cases, think about it, and then the first companies came on board, also Intact then, and we developed services, we developed software based on it. And I think this is where most companies these days are. So they have digitally supported audits, which makes sense. From just Dropbox and Excel to highly sophisticated systems, you see everything here. And what I argue for is that the next technology wave is an AI/data supported audit wave because of the reasons we just heard before. It just gives you the ability to make even better decisions. It gives you more insights into patterns, into the ability of making predictions, seeing what happened over a long time period, and also train models to help you and make suggestions. One thing that you also hear a lot of these days is augmented. So AI is augmenting us humans. So it helps us. You probably have heard about Microsoft Office 365. They have now developed a co-pilot based on ChatGPT, actually GPT, GPT-3 or 4. They say it's a co-pilot. The co-pilot helps you to fly, but it doesn't fly on its own. You are in charge. I think that is one of the most important things. And there are the leaders these days. They're not just early adopters. We're way beyond that. Once again, we have quite a couple of customers who are using already our technology there, and yeah, it works great. We are still in the early phase, but we see for sure steady growth here. Okay, paper supported audits, digitally supported audits, AI data supported audits. Good. Just for the second technology wave, I told you that's, for example, our Intact platform, from like the application, contract planning, audit planning, actually performing the audits, audit reviews, findings, reviews, until invoicing. That's everything like shipping data from A to B and do some transformation in the middle of it. Yeah, but not so much the cognitive tasks. Here, the human is pretty much left alone. The system just does what it does. Praise. Not saying it's bad, just saying it is a classical IT system, second technology wave, everything is digital, great. You might have seen something like this or even use something like this here, digital checklist where you can fill in your findings, your non-conformity descriptions, and upload photos, documents, and so on. This is a typical second wave technology. What also is in the second wave still, and now it gets a little bit more fuzzier, I would say, it's data visualization or business intelligence. Also, for me, if you ask me, in my world, this is still from the second wave. We're getting a lot of advancements there as well, but it's still second wave. Of course, now we have some overlaps with, like, for example, ChatGPT. Why would we include it in something like this? Why does ChatGPT doesn't come up with visualizations or something like this? So you have these overlaps, which where then it's getting hard to tell where is second, third wave. Is it all the same and so on? And probably this is really worth mentioning. That based like 3 to 5 years ago, AI systems were separate products. Everyone was like, great. So we have a new product, right? Even here at Intech, we said it's going to be the analytics solution. It's AI. Yeah. So why no one or just a few thought, why wouldn't we integrate it in our normal platform? These days, you see more and more and more that this thinking goes a little bit away, and now it comes like AI helps us to think, but the tools stay the same, meaning the processes that we have, the ways of working that we have are still the same. AI just helps us to be faster, be more, do more. So that is actually where we are here today, where this also took time. You know, we as practitioners and then also researchers, it took time. In the beginning, everyone was like, yeah, this is a different product, of course. So let's build different products. And now it's going a little bit the opposite way. You see that once again, Copilot, Microsoft, or also Excel, for example, you see the suggestions when you highlight some data points, then it suggests you how you want to visualize it. That is going into the AI area. Okay, second wave. Third wave. Here we would have had a little video. Unfortunately, it didn't work. Anyways, if I have the possibility, I'm going to share that with you later on, where we have a little explainer video with my coworker Frida from the future. Spoiler alert, she's not, explaining a little bit, okay, how can audit and certification work in the future look in a little bit of funny way. Anyways, the third technology wave, and I talked about it before, cognitive work. What is it? It's reasoning. Now, a lot of my colleagues would say that's not AI, and it's not classical. It's actually classical IT or software. Anyways, it so fits or merges into AI that I put it there. It's reasoning. It's like if A, then B. Yeah. Or we always see with this supply chain, we have these problems. With this critical control point, we always see problems in A, B, C. These are rules, and rules can be automated, because if you listen carefully and you have a little bit knowledge about programming, it's a classical if-then statement. Probably a loop around it, and then here we go. Yeah, so we always know means like if this and this happens, then X, Y, Z. Cognitive work, predictions of non-conformities. Now we would say, well, prediction is something that an algorithm does, but not a human being. Actually, a human being is a prediction machine. Also, that would be a philosophical question. Nevertheless, it's like your experience, your education, everything is like your feeling when you go somewhere and say, okay, I think I might check this or that. That is predicting unconsciously. Yeah. So predicting non-conformities, of course, there are algorithms for it. Machine learning is a classical example for this. Detect anomalies in audit data, for example. As a reviewer, I'm just gonna check everything that is in an audit. Of course, you have anomaly detection algorithms and pattern algorithms. These are statistical tools that you can use to actually automate to a certain extent. Analyze text and also actually understand the text that you're reading. This is a lot of work as an auditor, as you know, but also as a reviewer, or just general gathering of information, reading through documents, files, and so on. It's a lot of work. And here, I think that's why ChatGPT is the fastest growing application that has this earth ever seen, because it's so impressive. It seems that it can understand text and knows what we want from it. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. It's just a statistical tool, but anyways, at the end of the day, it feels like it. NLP, natural language processing, ChatGPT is a large language model. It's an LLM. We use that already for 3 years in our systems. Yeah, so this is something also that's also cognitive work, and then there are AI technologies for it. And analyze pictures and videos. This is something that we're going to see very soon. I mean, there are already some out there, but based on GPT-3 and 4, the underlying models of ChatGPT, that it's not just text when you think about, because there's also picture recognition. I don't have it there, but picture recognition of there are also algorithms for it. And when you think about like analyzing, I have it there, analyzing picture and videos. When you think about it like that, a video is just a sequence of pictures which can be transcribed into text. Here you go. And then you're in the text area again, and you can also analyze this. So these are the things. That's another mental model I want to give you. And when you think about, okay, what can AI do? Automates cognitive tasks to a certain extent. These are examples for cognitive work with AI technologies behind it. Then I hope this helps you to see and understand more. Okay. AI technologies. How does this look like? Or I tried to give you some examples. And this is actually from our software solution that we have in analytics. Rules. You see here, actually pretty simple. If you can work with Excel, then you should be able to also work with our rules. What is the goal behind it? Whenever a rule is the other way around. If a new audit is coming into your database, then the rule that I'm gonna set here is checking this audit that just entered your database. And if it's a match, then it would be flagged. Meaning I could say, I know that in a standard, in an ISO standard or a food safety standard, if 6.3 has a good rating or a bad rating, 7.9 cannot be good. So these are internal logics of standards, very easy one, that you can actually just put into the system. That's also what we call making implicit knowledge explicit. Meaning when we talk to experts, and also myself, I have a lot of things that I just know. I just know them out of experience because I've learned them. Someone taught that to me, and so on and so on. And I can actually make rules out of this. Advantage, well, it can be automated. So every audit is monitored or checked for a set of rules, for example. May that be dates, maybe that be thresholds, statistical parameters, and so on and so on. So this is a very easy way of applying rules. Next one would be anomaly detection. This is a more statistical approach. And you just see, I don't want to go into a lot of details, but you see here a very high bar and here very low bars. It just means in this audit, we found that the rating for this very checklist point is highly abnormal. So in a very big data set that is comparable, of course, we found that in general, there is a different rating. That doesn't mean it's wrong at all. It just gives you a hint that you probably checked that twice. It may just that it was a typo or that the data that came in was not correct. Import services, they have their bugs. So that's possible that that is something there. Or it just really is an outlier. Yeah. Good. Statistical methods, anomaly detection. Predictive analytics, we already talked about this. Also something out of our tool set. For example, you can say, I know who I'm going to audit, who's going to be the auditor. We know pretty much the supply chain behind it. We know the commodity. We know the history of the audits. We know what's happening outside of the company with a lot of factors playing into that. Also very important. and I really root for that, is no algorithm goes into production if it's not validated from an expert, meaning they're under constant, we're constantly checking them if the output of the algorithms and the AI system actually makes sense, or it's going or drifting in one or the other direction. And then you could say, well, actually, what we would say is that we find, it's very small here for me, a requirement group 4 is going to have a lot of nonconformities. It's probably worth to have a closer look there. And here also we go into the area of risk-based auditing, where we say, okay, for example, you can have these unannounced checks based on exactly such a checklist. That's actually what is also applied out there. Where you say, okay, I get a watch list where all the requirements are there from the AI system. Pretty much it's data. The data shows that these are, in general, to a very high confidence, going to be nonconformity. And then you check it. If it's right, awesome. And what we've seen out there is that that works quite well. And that really helps you to go really into the areas that are a challenge, and the others that are probably not so prone for risk. You can do that a little bit more on the surface. This is then also, I mean, I know it's a hot discussion, but this also goes a little bit away of like scattershot audits to really tailor-made audits, individualized audits, which is risk-based auditing. Good. Next would be NLP. For example, we had a lot of audits analyzed for the nonconformity descriptions, and it's free text. Yeah? So it's not a data field, or it's not a fixed field where with data points that you can analyze right away. It is a lot of characters. So you have to actually use something like ChatGPT, large language models, and then you can say, what is the biggest problem in my standard? And we figured out, well, the biggest problem is actually that people are using not a version. Of course, it's a demo system, a version of a standard that it's not valid anymore, right? And so on. The second most identified topic would be then, for example, a critical control point that was not well defined, and so on and so on. And then you see, well, these are the topics we have to work on. And this is really something that we have to take on. You even can say then, okay, that's the nonconformity descriptions. Let's also look at the root causes and then all the mitigations that was taken and see how effective and efficient they were. And you have closed this circle, and you could say, yeah, well, that's what the clients said they're going to do as a mitigation. We see that works a lot of times, so that's great. Or normally we see different things, but can be perfectly fine in this context. But in general, we would see something else. Then you might have a second look. Okay, I know I'm already taking a lot of time, but please bear with me. It's just would be so much to say about all of this, and I don't want to skip things that I see really important. And picture and video recognition. This is a screenshot from, or actually a picture I got from the Microsoft website about Teams Plus. And in the future, if you record a meeting, then it will tell you tasks. It will suggest tasks for each person that you actually were talking about. Yeah? So Mike's going to have a second look at the marketing presentation, and Dora's going to prepare the meeting notes, and so on and so on. And Dora will not have so much to do, because the meeting notes, for example, is going to prepare by a large language model, GTP in that case. So it also gives you not just the tasks for each person, also the meeting notes, the full transcription, but also, and this is the cognitive task, it would give you the just a short summary of all of this with the most important parts. and so on. So yeah, no, I'm not spoiling, but when you think about, for example, remote audits, that's going to be interesting. Okay, good. Use cases. Now we're going to look at these technologies in a use case way. Let's put it like this, with a different pair of glasses. That's something that you can that I can send you if you want. It's just for my overview of like what we call here in the middle. That's the audit chain. We're gonna talk about this in a minute, with the technologies to it, for the tasks that are at hand, and yeah, just also the use cases with a name. But first things first, just that's what we see as the audit chain. So you have a standard setter who comes up with a standard. You have a certification body with an audit manager. You have a third-party auditor, may also be a second or first-party auditor, the auditee, and a supply chain. Just saying the supply chain, actually, especially in bigger production sites, we see that when they have their second-party audits, they sometimes act as the standard setter, the CB, and the auditor in one. So the same things then also, of course, apply to the supply chain or the auditee themselves. So the auditee acts as standard setter, like this. Okay. Third thing, standard improvements. That would be a use case. So the standard setter, of course, also has a PDCA cycle, wants to get better and better and better quality, safety, sustainability, whatsoever. And which risk topics are trending? You can have, for example, anomaly detection, looking at all the incoming audits and say, okay, as I showed you before, what are the biggest problems in our standard? What is happening over and over and over again? And based on this, I have the next revision tailored for this here. ChatGTP. This can come also from outside of the company. Yeah? And that's also what we have done, and I'm going to share the link with you later. We have an own ChatGTP site on our website where we have a closer look to these use cases, and where you can also say, ChatGTP, please tell me for this specific industry, for this specific area, what is the most seen problem out there? Now some will say, well, this model was trained on data that was publicly available, which causes a lot of problems. Italy exclamation mark, where it's forbidden. But the next version, and this is what we're going to see, is that these models can be trained industry specific. And this is also where Intact will be one of the actually the first, where we are going to train these models specifically for our industries. So, and then you can say, okay, look, with this information that we have here, what are the biggest trending topics? Please help us to identify and read through all these documents that we have there, and help us figuring out how we can improve. And of course, rules, and also ruled with external data as well, but internal ones, if they're, for example, there are bad weather conditions, and they have a sustainability standard or a safety standard where I just can use certain fertilizers, then I'm very sure that we will see misuse of fertilizers in these areas. Highly understandable, but these are things that we for sure see here. Standard improvement. Next thing would be risk-based audit planning. Well, of course, right? Whom to audit, when, how, and what. This is the optimization function, actually, or not the function, but it's the decision spaces for the optimization function. Whom to audit, when, how, and what. What shall be the content of the audit? May that be a shadow audit? May that be a desktop audit? When, now, in a year? Can we skip some? Whom to audit? Supply chains to industries, areas, or in or companies, individual companies. These are all things that AI can help us to plan. Okay, whom audit, when, how, and what. Classical AI approach. At the auditing itself, so risk-based auditing pretty much, yeah? Where should the auditor focus on? So think about, you get a preparation, you get a prep video, yeah? So ChatGPT, let's call it ChatGPT, it's gonna prepare a little video for you, yeah? With once again, this model then was trained specifically on the industry, specifically on the standard and so on, with also some examples from the past, from this auditee, but also from similar auditees, giving you a brief overview of the past findings of like what we have seen so far, what might happen, what might happen. Also predictive analytics in there with a risk-based audit checklist with the hot topics and so on and so on and so on. And also this all in paper. Or you get the data and the documents from the auditee in advance, and we do see that, especially in Great Britain, that then you let a large language model read through it and you say, what's going to be the problem here? Not that it will find everything and it will be perfect. No, it just gives you hints. Of course, we're here in the area of security, safety, and also ethics. We need good, very good ways of actually dealing with all of this, of course. Auditing, and also I said that before, another thing that you could do here in the risk-based auditing area would then be record all the sessions. Remote auditing, you already are on a Zoom or Teams call, record the session, let it analyze everything. And then you have your specific points you can investigate further. Also works in real time, by the way. So that's, you don't have to send it somewhere, wait for a week, and then you get it back. It's pretty much real time. Or you type in a finding, for example, and based on this finding, you get follow-up actions that you could look at. These were all things that can be done. Auditors to the CB. Now we're going back. Yeah. So, and this is actually the use case our software is used the most. The next two, where we say we look or we monitor all the audits that come in, see if there are outliers, read through the documents, if we find something interesting, natural language processing, and so on and so on. And of course, then the last thing would be the integrity checks, especially in food safety. They are called integrity checks. Audit review automation, same thing as the use case before, just making sure that the data, incoming data, is first of all, good data quality. Second of all, it makes sense. And once again, yes, you just can analyze the data that actually goes into the system, meaning like if the data is not good or biased or whatsoever that goes in, your analysis will not be good. But this is a discussion we will always have. And I hope actually that we will see systems in the future that will also show more value or pay higher prices or whatsoever for good data quality, something like this, to have good incentives to, it doesn't have to be money, but to really have good data quality. Two examples that we have seen: time and cost savings. And when I talk about time and cost savings, I also mean that then you have time to do a lot of other things that in our view are not taken care of these days. So you have time and your brain free to really do them. As a standard setter, for example, saved 888 hours and checked 100% of the audits. Back in the days, they were just able to manually check random samples, about 10%, 8 to 12% we see a lot. Even though they checked 100%, they even saved 888 hours and found 105 unknown inconsistencies. That means with this pattern recognition, we see things that nobody would have thought of. Because as a human being, you just can look for things that you know are odd. As a computer system, comparing a lot of patterns, I can see new things. This unknown unknowns or the known unknowns, as they're called. Certification body, of course, you have a lot more of audits that you have to analyze. A lot of hours saved and some of the inconsistencies with the unknown is found there as well. If you're interested to learn more, please check out the intexsystems.com/intect-analytics site. We have some white papers there. We have the site with ChatGPT there. Just browse through it, have fun with it. And if you have questions, just drop me a line. And yeah, I'm happy to talk about this then as well. And if you're interested to even learn more about our products, of course, you can book a demo or just a call to really go more into the ChatGPT area or what you can do there or the analytics area and so on. Just drop a line there at the marketing@intexsystems.com and we're gonna have you covered. Thank you so much for your time, for your attention. Once again, these times are really, really exciting, I think, for all of us, but especially for us in the AI sector and industry. And yeah, we're really looking forward to all the things to come.
Jochen, excellent job. Excellent job. Very, very full webinar. A lot of mind-blowing information there, a lot of information to take in. And we have nearly 30 questions in the queue. So we're not going to be able to get to nearly many of these at all, but I want to just run through a few. And of course, I'll submit these questions to you, Jochen, and you can address the users directly with answers to any we don't get to. So let's just go through a few of these in the time we have remaining. Is your analytics software aligned to the API Q1 audit criteria, the energy industry?
No. That was quick. No, but what we do, but what we do in general, we do have some basic API connections, but we have a lot of customized import services. So that is not a problem. That's not an issue. And if it's big enough, we just build an API. Got it.
Here's an interesting question. Did the rules writers use the ISO standards as the logic platform for the AI software? Is there a deeper learning loop function that enables the AI to determine borderline correct evidence and or incorrect evidence?
Very good question. I'm not sure if I understood everything correct, but let me try. So there is a learning curve behind the rules. That means based on the findings that you have with a rule, you get some outputs. And based on these outputs, you very fast see, okay, is that actually what I'm after or not? And this is something that we see a lot. So they change a lot in the beginning, these rules. That's one thing. The second thing is what people do is they also have these business rules, timely issues, follow-up issues, and so on. A lot of timely issues, actually. These business rules that are actually in a standard, you just can put them in there. We already have some of them out of stock. So this is something that we see a lot.
Here's another interesting question. There's chock full of interesting questions in this queue. Does this platform support training of auditors through simulation or gamification?
Excellent question. It does help the auditor trainings, indeed, because what we see is for each auditor, we all are biased, so are technical systems, but I'm just saying we are all biased and we have our things that we like to see more than the others. And so we can actually use that to bring things to attention. And this is exactly what our customers are doing. Going to the gamification area, if you check out my research profile, there you're going to find a tool or a poster. I think it's a poster about that we did gamification with that. Especially when we showed pictures, scenes, little videos, and people would have to say, okay, I would do this and that. Yeah. And collecting a lot of data, especially with the experts. So that's then the validated model, and then help youngers, juniors to actually see the same things. And this is also powered by AI. That's fascinating, but we don't have a product for that.
Mm-hmm. Here's another really interesting question. How do you handle non-disclosure agreements or classified information scans into the AI platform? And where is the evidence in metadata stored to ensure customer confidence that there are no cloud leaks? Is all the data encrypted that is scanned in or by the AI platform?
Short answer, it depends. But I have to be very researchy here. But since, of course, there is like we are ISO 27000 certified. Everything is on Azure, stored on Azure. The encryption level, for example, for some customers, we don't encrypt. For some, we do encrypt. That really depends on the use case and our customers, because that really can get a little bit out of hand if you have if you want to share that all, and you have like the first level, second level, third level aggregations and so on. Anyway, we do always assess that with the customer and say, okay, what is necessary, also legally. Yeah, so that we have actually, unfortunately, this didn't go into a project, but what we had is that we had a consortium, and we said, look, to really ensure that everything runs as is in the contracts, because there's a lot of contract work, of course. Yeah? It's on the contracts. We actually have lawyers for it. Yeah, so trustees. Yeah, so they would check like randomly us. Yeah, if everything is taken care of, and also the data streams are as they are in the legal framework. But of course, this is these are the bigger projects. Yes.
Are you using, I think you may have answered this. I'm sorry if I missed it. Are you using the OpenAI algorithm, and do you train the model accordingly?
To train, sorry, what was the second?
Are you using the OpenAI algorithm, and do you train the model accordingly?
We started a project where we have a proof of concept, or we come up with proof of concepts pretty much for all the use cases that we have here. Right now, you cannot train the model as we think it should be. Yeah, so the ChatGPT model. And also that is not what we would do in a first step. We would do, before we would do that, we would also have another legal check, and also another data security check before we would do something like this. But just like the pure proof of concept, we just started a project. Yeah.
And finally, let's close with this one. I understand that the more data points, the better. Will your AI be using only your data points available to your software, or from other registrars?
Oh, also the same here. That depends. Yeah, so we do have a lot of data sets that are quite openly accessible that we also analyze, but you of course can blend into yours if there is a need for it, or if actually it improves your own models. But what we have seen so far is, when we talk about approximately 1,000 audits per year, this is the number, and this is also what our algorithms are specially trained for small data point, for a small number of data points. Yeah? Yes, this is actually the old thinking also, by the way. So the more data points, the better. The new bullshit bingo term would be small data, so that you actually can use also smaller amounts of data. This will be also very important for ChatGPT, by the way, or the GTP model, because not a lot of people have so many data points. And then, make a long story short, we have optimized our algorithms to work with quite a small amount of data, and we have quite a high accuracy with that. But also, it really depends. Yeah.
Wow, well, that was a really, really great deep dive. I hope everyone who watched with us today and had a chance to check this out live got a lot out of it. I certainly did, and I'm sure many of you will want to rewatch it. So again, we'll have it available on our website. We'll also email you the link so you can check that out. So really, really good, good morning, afternoon, wherever you are, evening, wherever you are, of information from Jochen there. So thank you again, Jochen, for that deep dive into the role of AI in the audit and certification process. Really, really great stuff. And again, all of you who watch the event, whether it's live or on demand, you're gonna be eligible to purchase CPD to demonstrate your ongoing commitment to continuous learning in the journey in your field. So you can check that out on our Exemplar Link platform. We'll be emailing you as a follow-up to give you instructions about how to do that. So again, thank you all for joining us today. Really fascinating afternoon of learning. Thank you, Jochen. Thank you all. We'll see you here at the next webinar coming up soon. Bye-bye.